Hello everybody, Cavalier difficulty guide. Hope you're doing well. Now, a bit of a weird one. I had access to the Cavalier difficulty for I think the last 24 hours, which is good in some ways because it takes about 4 to 6 hours, maybe even more than that, to create these particular videos where we look over. And by the way, in the link in the description is a spreadsheet which has boss counters, immunities, and path kind of like breakdowns as well. But yeah, I've had access to this for the last 24 hours. I don't know if this is an ongoing thing. I'm still trying to find out from Caban whether or not this was a mistake in the content creator beta to have access to. I guess that's something I'll need to find out. So this may be like a very rare opportunity where I'm able to get this out in a very quick and timely fashion, so this guide is ready for when players start to grind. But in any case, I'm sure this has been overshadowed by relics being kind of like the forefront of the first look, which I'm going to cover in another video or just put out. In any case, to the point, Richard, I will do just that. So we're going to go over all the different paths and the best champions for the paths, and as well best champions for the bosses. 1.1 features a little cosmic booster. So the particular champions you want to look for are champions that have armor breaks as part of their kit. Your Medusas, your Pteryxes, your Corvuses, your Cosmic Ghost Riders, Hyperions, Venom. The list goes on. Lots of champions that are options for that. Kraven is your boss, and I would say there are some warnings because there is Shank, there is Coolant Leak, and Clapback. You're going to have to be very careful of what champions you use. I've also in the spreadsheet changed the way that I've done these kind of like boss breakdowns, so they're more kind of like a cue card type thing, where it says how to place this down to a personal preference, so you can just intercept and not like avoid the fact of what Shank does, which is as soon as you get hit into the block, you'll get a bleed debuff. So just be on the front foot with intercepts. Again, that's down to a personal preference of playstyle. Blackwood Clairvoyant in the bleed curse could be a good counter, but you've got to watch out for champions that are clapback champions, which is as soon as you do a damaging debuff one way of a certain type, you're going to get back. So champions that like Colossus, which are immune to bleed, are good. Cosmic Ghost Rider, which is incinerate immune and bleed immune, so that can be quite helpful depending on your rotation of it. Both Magnetos will have bleed immunity to a degree, and also Hercules, Angela, Sauron, Dormammu. Those are great options. Namor, reflective damage. King Groot, but don't do an SP2. Apocalypse, but don't do an SP1. Those things. Also in the spreadsheet, there is a Jarvis immunities list, so it kind of like will help out players as to you know, who to use. Quest 1.2 is all about science champions, and science champions that produce debuffs are the best ones. So Cap, Infinity War, especially if you've got weakness as well. Sorry, that's something to point out, weakness. Immortal Abomination's got Petrify, so Petrifying Weakness, those particular ones, and Power Stings. So Human Torch, Wasp, Spider-Ham, Spider-Man Miles Morales, She-Hulk with Mr. Fantastic. The list goes on. Your boss for 1.2 is Green Goblin. The warnings for this, as I've said with the cue card, is you'll need to keep your power bars up due to Langer, and as well attacker crits will have a 50% chance of taking power from you. So you do a crit, you're losing power. So part of the problem that kind of feeds into. And also with SP2 more stronger of a kind of a throw, that you're gonna have to be very careful about how you deal with it. Also Fate Seal, so that's something that's going to be something to point out as well. It depends how you want to take this down. Like, you could do Magneto because it's a hashtag metal champion. Hyperion, gain of power, but you've got to watch out for the Fate Seal. Black Widow Clairvoyant could be a good kind of like idea of switching into the Poison Curse. Doctor Doom, Magic, Power Stealing could be an option. There is a little power reserve on this one, so the cost of special attacks is a lot less. So it may be that, again, may be an option. You could even do Human Torch pre-fight, smash it up, or just generally we're taking on that, you know, again, down to personal preference of how to take that on. Your 2.1 is going to be about mutant-based champions, healing factor, just as scratch, and relentless mutation. Champions that build prowess are the key for this one in order to build those Fury passives as quickly as possible. Jubilee, Kitty Pryde, House of X Magneto, Red Magneto, Gambit, Professor X, Apocalypse, the list goes on. It's not just about that, because you can go down the route of regen mutants. Down to personal preference, I'm sure there's a lot of mutants that just absolutely smash this. Your boss, which is a bit tricky on 2.1 is Mr. Negative. Mr. Negative gets critical setup, crit me with my best shot. So basically, you will get a crit as a guaranteed with critical setup. There also will be a way that you can get some crits with a precision that pops up on you based on interacting with, I think it's critical, yeah, critical eye, but you have to intercept. And also crit me with your best shot, so you're going to have to do crits in order to do damage. There's a little bit more complex to this particular one, and as I put it with a cue card, warning, you need to crit in order to damage opponent. Warning as well, you need to crit the champion. When you crit the champion, he goes unblockable. So as soon as you crit champion, he goes unblockable. That's a problem. Intercept to remove unblockable, and you get a passive precision. Now, options for this one do vary. Also, if you don't like inverted controls, I'm not a big fan of inverted controls or reverse controls, so I probably will be using Juggernaut for this. And that's just down to like the fact I just don't like inverted controls or reverse controls. But you've got Professor X, Emma Frost that deal with that. Debuff Shruggers as well. I think that's something, I've put that in for a reason. I think that's a case of like, oh yeah, shrugging off so you don't get the reverse control, the Delirium. As soon as you get Delirium debuff, then he gets the reverse controls. So that's another way of dealing with that if you don't like that, and just intercept in order to take off the unblockable. You could try Archangel for this one, Hercules, Kitty Pryde, Dr. Doom with Annilhus, because what you'll be doing with the Diablo synergy with Annilhus and, for Dr. Doom is, you'll be Doom slapping, and every time you Doom slap, it's critical. You could also use Falcon because it crits, Domino, Corvus because it crits, but watch out with Corvus because you won't be able to build missions. Colossus could be good for this, Cosmic Ghost Rider, Scarlet Witch Classic, any kind of high rate crit champion could be an option. But again, down to personal preference. I don't like the idea of class disadvantage against this, but you do you at the end of the day. 2.2 is all about Arcane Zeal, Ionized Armor, Steady Perseverance, Mystic Champions, of course. Champions to do with this, just basically stagger and nullify effect champions. Hoods could be good. Hood could be good. Doctor Doom, Thor Jane Foster, Juggernaut. Again, list goes on. So many options. Doc Ock is your final boss with but a minor setback, which kind of looks to kind of suppress things like armor break until you knock champion down, then you get it for a length of time. Explosive personality, meltdown, ebb and flow, knockdown. Okay, so in the cue card that I've written for this is that the 3 warnings are: don't hit into the block because it's explosive personality. Meltdown timer, so special attacks to throw back on enemy. So you get you've got a meltdown timer on you. You want to throw it onto the enemy, and whoever's got that meltdown timer comes close to the end point, boom, gets a big amount of damage. Don't let it be on you. Quick rotations of special attack champions could be the option. Unblockable champions, unblockable special champions could be good options for this. And we've also got knockdown for ebb and flow, and removing that, so you're actually doing some damage because it does suppress that damage. And again, this is down to personal preference. I've personally said that Dr. Doom would be a good option because of Doom slaps and the regularity with throwing that. So you could or might want to do a champion, I don't know, with Mr. Fantastic or that synergy we just mentioned, because we've got the crits, the Doom slaps. But again, down to personal preference. But also, you've got champions that build power quickly or suppress it or kind of like stagnate the enemy from throwing special attacks. So Hyperion, Purgatory, Sorcerer Supreme can build power very nicely. Penny Parker, Infamous Iron Man, punish power and throw specials well. Magneto against a hashtag metal champion, because why not? 3.1 now, and this is all about tech champions. There's a ton of tech champions for this with Power Technician and Kinetic Transference. Tons. Guillotine 2099, Tech Doom, Ultron, the 4th block attack, Nimrod, for example. Warlock is my favourite, Hulkbuster, another favourite. Tons of champions to use to take down the paths on. And now on to the boss. There are actually like a nice amount of options for this. Blade, hashtag Dimensional Being Counter. Shout out to Super Duper Boo for reminding me of that one. Archangel I used as well quite nicely for this. Miss counters Nick Fury, Hercules, Cosmic Ghost Rider, Professor X. But the champion has Stop Hitting Me, has Disorient Dimple, has Stun Vulnerability, Bubble Shield, Polka Dot Power. Polka Dot Power is the attacker gains no power from landing or receiving attacks. Instead, they are granted 12% of a power bar per second while the defender is suffering from a damaging debuff. So basically, you've got to do damaging debuff to get any power back from it. So obviously, you'll need champions that do damaging debuffs. But again, this is down to a personal preference of how you want to fight this champion. So what I've done with the pointers is this. So warning, Polka Dot Power, so you need damaging debuffs. When champion is untouchable, he is stun immune. That's important. So no Magneto, House of X cheese with that one. Champ will miss, so miss counters, question mark. Standard vulnerability, but do be warned when the champ gets untouchable or misses you, you might want to reconsider the options. It doesn't work out, play into this node. But Breakout Blade, Dimensional Being, and as I said, Archangel miscounters in general could be quite good. It's a pretty like doable fight, especially if you've got some of those kind of cheese options or cheese champions. And we end with 3.2, which has Punishment Glutton, skill-based champions, tons on offer for. There's some of the new champions. When you crit, you get a bleed effect. Craven, crit with a bleed, get a bleed effect. Black Cat. You also got Elsa Bloodstone with SP1 Hellfire rounds. You've also got Black Widow Deadly Origin with shocks off the basic hits. And also Nick Fury with heavy attack and mediums. Gwenpool with basic bleeds. Squirrel, Falcon. The list goes on. So many. And what about the boss? Well, it has root or rooted. So basically keep your distance so you don't want to get rooted. So the enemy gets rooted. Happy days. Thumbs up. Third law. Whenever the attacker gains certain types of buff-based effects, it does mean that they power up. The Spider-Man Supreme, and that's the biggest thing. The champion builds power more so if you're kind of like building buffs, and this is why there's going to be some key champions to watch out for to take this down. You've got Bob and Weave, you've got Feet of Power, but these aren't really stuff to worry about if you've got the right counters for it. And look, you know, when I went to take this on, I played about with two narratives for this one. Number one, trying to like take on the power, which wasn't really advisable. And then number two was taking down a champion by the means of having no buff champions. But also, there are some other ones that work relatively well against this. So, root or rooted, keep your distance. Watch out for certain buffs granting power to the defender. That's the main thing. And champ will miss some miscounters. Again, that's something to kind of watch out for as well when the champion gets some kind of like abilities. So root the root and doing crits through block is a little annoying. Yes, that's the other thing as well. Like you will have like damage crits through the block, so you're gonna have to be very careful about the way you kind of take on that fight. You might find yourself kind of like wanting to be very intercepty, and this is where other champions make this a bit easier, like no buff champions against Spider-Man Supreme, like Red Guardian, Spider-Man 2099, and I think Ant-Man, but I could be wrong on that one. Spots pre-fights, if you get a spot early, could be very good because that kind of allows for a buff immunity on yourself, I think it is. And a pre-fight, and also you can look at other options. Doctor Doom was a bit of an iffy option. I don't really overly recommend that one. Black Widow Clairvoyant could be another option. Archangel could be fun. That's one more I want to test out. But as well, if you want to have champions that suppress certain things, Mr. Negative, Human Torch could be quite a cool option because of what he does. And also Quake, but again, it's down to personal preference of what you kind of like. I think there's something that may be a problem for Archangel when it comes to ability accuracy reduction, but I need to test that out still. But in any case, as I said, like Spider-Man 2099 is a good option. There's still damage that can be done with Doctor Doom and many other champions. It's just down to personal preference of how you want to take on this fight. And that's been it for the video. Hope you enjoyed it. I hope it's helpful as well. I'm so glad I was able to do this a lot earlier because it allowed more time for me to kind of like experiment and also prepare stuff. So I'm hoping Kabam roll this out on a monthly basis. So, you know, 24 hours before I can create this video, which as I said, takes hours. Like this takes 6 hours plus to make a video like this and do the research and stuff. So yeah, hopefully I get to make more of these, and we'll have to see. Thanks for watching. Lots of info dumped today and information, so go and check out the videos, and I'll see you very soon. Cheers everybody, have a good one. Bye bye.